No one anticipated this. After months of silence, Tim finally spoke up. Also, what he said about everyone was speechless during Jungkook. Fans are now questioning the once unbreakable connection. Everything. It is said to be the most moving moment in BTS history by some. Others say it's the truth HYBE never wanted us to know. Whether it's hidden messages or heartfelt moments captured on camera, this is the background to Toon's shocking confession about Jungkook and the reasons why armies from all over the entire world is in tears. For weeks, fans noticed something different. The way Taehyung and Jungkook on stage looked at each other. The peaceful moments that were once inviting now seem far away. Armies began asking about their interactions. In the shadows, rumors spread quickly. Some asserted Taehyung had been suppressing his feelings. Others believed Jungkook was hiding something deeper. However, no one anticipated what would follow. Then during a live broadcast, Toon finally broke his silence. Despite being calm, he spoke with emotion. He said, "The closest people, at times, to you are the ones who understand your pain the most, even when they can't say it out loud." The fandom was thrown into chaos by a single sentence. Was he referring to Jungkook? Was this an announcement about him or to him? Theories, videos, and emotional reactions from fans flooded social media. Some cried, others defended him. But there was one thing everyone agreed on. Something in the middle of Taehyung and Jungkook had transformed completely. When Tung's words spread online, Jungkook remained silent. No updates, no less, there were no remarks, just silence. But armies noticed everything. His eyes during rehearsals, the way he avoided certain questions, and how his usual bright smile seemed a little heavier than before. Then during one late-night live, Jungkook appeared on camera alone. His tone of voice was soft, almost trembling. At first, he tried to make light of it by saying, "You guys worry too much." But then, paused for a very long time. His expression changed and the chat went wild. He took a deep breath and finally declared, "There are things that people don't see. Even when we are standing, we all experience things, on stage, next to each other." Even though it wasn't a direct response, everyone knew who he was talking about. It was enough to break my heart when his tone softened and he said "we," and his sad eyes. Hearts of the army instantly, clips of that moment went viral. Fans began making connections between Tum's emotional statement and Jungkook's quiet confession. It was no longer just speculation. Something real, something painful was happening behind the scenes. And yet, in the middle of it, all in all, they continued to perform, giggling at their fans and acting as though everything was fine. But those who looked closely could see the truth. Their eyes told a story words never could. The days grew into weeks, and the tension between Taehyung and Jungkook became impossible to ignore. During rehearsals for upcoming BTS project, cameras captured minute details. A glance here, a quiet nod there. But they didn't actually talk to each other. The fans could sense it. Something big was coming. Then, during a behind-the-scenes shoot, it finally happened. After the cameras stopped rolling, Tum turned toward Jungkook. Rolling. The room stopped talking. The staff pretended to be busy because they were unsure of what was about to happen, but everyone was watching. Tim stood there for a moment looking at Jungkook with that same deep, unreadable gaze and then he said quietly, "You know, I never meant to hurt you." Jungkook froze. He didn't say a word. For a while, his eyes glistened, not with anger, but with something far more unpleasant. Finally, he whispered back, "I know. I just didn't know how to say it either." Those few words broke the silence that had separated them for so long. It wasn't dramatic. No shouting, no tears on camera, just two people finally acknowledging the weight they'd been carrying. Something changed following that day. The distance was still there. But it wasn't cold anymore. It was fragile, like healing, like understanding. Later, fans noticed him posted a photo with a simple caption. "Some things don't need to be explained." Jungkook liked it within seconds. The fandom wept in response to that insignificant interaction. It wasn't a complete reconciliation, something quieter, real, intimate, and emotional. Before the silence, long ago, before the emotional distance fans started to notice, Taehyung and Jungkook had been carrying the weight of expectations that most people could never imagine. Fame, pressure, and constant eyes. They had silently formed barriers between themselves by observing their every move. Both would frequently do so during interviews, smile and say, "We're like brothers." But behind that warmth were moments of misunderstanding. Words that go unspoken and exhaustion. They cared deeply about, was even mentioned by a close employee. each other, but sometimes carrying too much hurts. It all started when schedules became overwhelming. While Tum was venting his emotions, Jungkook was working on solo projects nonstop, into his own commitments in acting and music. Without real conversations, nights turned into days. Messages became shorter, calls were not returned, and when they finally met again on set, they no longer felt as close as they once did. The rumors started to spread. Fans noticed Taehyung unfollowed a few accounts. Jungkook appeared to be more reserved, and moments that used to be playful now felt awkward. But the truth wasn't anger or betrayal. It was burnout. Both were secretly battling, trying to keep one another safe while also keeping themselves safe. They had an affair behind closed doors, emotional discourse, one that was never captured by cameras. A quiet, raw exchange where both finally admitted they had been suffering, not because of each other, but because of everything in their immediate surroundings. When Tu said, "The closest people to you understand your pain the most," he was referring to that, even when they can't say it out loud. And when Jungkook responded, "We all go through things even when we are standing on stage side by side," he was not concealing anything. He was safeguarding the bond they still shared. The friendship between them did not end there. It was the beginning of something deeper. A silent understanding between two individuals who shared their childhood and learned together, and faced the world side by side. When the dust finally settled, both Taehyung and Jungkook knew that silence could no longer protect them. Fans were hurt, perplexed, and desperate for clarification. So, instead of hiding behind posts or interviews, they decided to speak, not through press releases, but from the heart. They sat together at a special live event to mark BTS's anniversary, side by side again for the first time in months. The atmosphere was soft, laughter blended with quiet moments of reflection. Then Tun looked at Jungkook, smiled faintly, and said, "We've been through a lot, haven't we?" Jungkook nodded, eyes glistening. He replied softly, "Yeah, but we always come back stronger." That simple exchange hit harder than any official statement. Emotions erupted in the fandom. Clips of that moment flooded social media. Millions of armies writing messages of love and relief. Later that night, Toon posted a message that read, "Thank you for understanding, even when we couldn't explain, we're okay, really." And Jungkook replied under it with just 3 words, "Always by your side." Fans around the world cried, because it wasn't just about friendship, it was about growth, trust, and a bond that fame never could be destroyed. Both the interviews that followed me and my own admission that the journey had been difficult, but it made them realize how much they meant to each other and to ARMY. We don't always make everything clear. However, please be aware that our hearts are always connected, Jungkook said. TA expanded distance can help you see who truly stands with you, and for us, that is always the case. The ARMY. The message was understood. Regardless of the misunderstandings or the silence, their bond was still unshakable. It wasn't just an apology. It served as a reminder that despite fame, despite this, these two individuals shared something actual. Something that distance, time, and rumors can't change. This wasn't just a live broadcast, a Korean entertainment journalist wrote in an article. This was a message of unity. HYBE might make decisions, but BTS will always speak from the heart. In spirit, fans gathered near HYBE's building, holding purple lights and signs that read, "We'll wait for you until 7 or nothing," they said. There was no protest. It was a promise. A stillness oath of allegiance from millions of people who refused to let a business decision define the bond that BTS formed over more than a decade. After that live, Jungkook and Taehyung remained silent. No updates, no brand new appearances. However, that one shared moment was sufficient to remind everyone of the reasons why armies had first fallen in love with them. Because even in complete silence, they still communicate with each other. And for the first time in weeks, the community didn't scream for fear. They were crying out of love. The world was still buzzing from Taehyung and Jungkook's emotional live when suddenly the other BTS members began to move. With subtle, rather than outright statements, powerful gestures that only true armies could understand. Jim started it all. A few days after, he shared a picture on Instagram of the live event, a straightforward sunset photo with the following caption, "Some things never fade." It didn't mention names, but everyone knew. Fans immediately connected it to the moment that Taehyung and Jungkook had. There were many comments. He is trying to remind the menace that their bond will endure forever. Then came during his radio appearance. When questioned about the group's current state, he paused for a few seconds before answering softly. We continue to walk the same path, just from different directions for now. His words were powerful. The tone and tranquility. It was pointing out to the world that BTS's story is not over for Kim Nam-jun. It's just changing form. Jin, nonetheless serving in the military, everyone was surprised when he liked a Weverse fan post with the caption, "Real brothers can show their love without speaking. They just feel it." That one tiny interaction reignited hope among millions of fans. Even Suga, known for his quiet strength, added to the moment. He played a few soft piano notes during the subsequent live stream and whispered to those who could understand. "That's enough." The message was clear, despite the lack of names and context. Individually, these gestures might have seemed small, but together they painted a picture, one of unity, loyalty, and unspoken brotherhood. Armies began calling it the Week of Purple Echoes, a time when every BTS member, in their own quiet way, showed that no decision, no company, and no rumor could ever break their bond. Hope returned for the first time in weeks. It wasn't just about Taehyung and Jungkook anymore. It was about all seven still connected, still standing, still BTS. What began as silence, a wave of fan sentiment, had now developed into a worldwide movement. Within a week, the kind-faced HYBE of pressure no company could ignore. Major news outlets from CNN to Naver began covering the story, calling it the emotional storm that shook K-pop's biggest empire. Petitions calling for HYBE to reconsider their restructuring policy gathered over 2 million signatures in less than 48 hours. Fans didn't just post hashtags. They organized, sent letters, and even bought advertisements for billboards, in Seoul and New York, where the message is displayed. Respect the artists, not the agenda. Industry insiders started to whisper that HYBE's executives were caught off guard by the sheer power of BTS's fandom. One insider revealed they expected some noise, but not a global movement like this. They underestimated how emotionally connected armies are to the members' unity. In the background, daily meetings were held. The company's leadership reportedly debated whether to release another clarification to quell the blaze, but every draft of the statement also felt too corporate, cold. Nothing could match the warmth and sincerity of Taehyung and Jungkook's moment. Meanwhile, journalists camped outside HYBE's headquarters. Every time a black Ben pulled in or out, cameras flashed, hoping to capture even the smallest clue. A leak marked the turning point. A resource according to sources close to the business, some executives had begun pushing for a complete reversal of the paused collaborations clause, citing the backlash as unprecedented and damaging. That leak spread like wildfire, and then there was a sudden resurgence of hope. Armies believed that maybe, as a fan tweeted that evening, perhaps their voices were being heard. "We began as a fandom. Now we're a force that even HYBE has to listen to." However, while the rest of the world awaited HYBE's next move, unexpected events occurred. Something that would change the story completely. It took place quietly, away from the noise and cameras. No fan accounts caught it. No reporters saw it happen. But somehow, word got out. Late one evening, a black van was seen entering the HYBE building long after business hours. A different vehicle showed up a few hours later, one that fans were aware right away. Tong had been using the same van for months. Moments later, additionally, Jungkook's car was observed. What followed was pure silence. For nearly 4 hours, no one knew what was happening inside that building. However, as dawn broke, a few employees began whispering. They met, all of them. Sources described the meeting as intense but emotional. Taehyung and Jungkook were reportedly joined by senior HYBE executives, a representative from Big Hit Music, and even one of the producers who started the company. The goal to discuss the restructuring plan that had divided the fandom and nearly the members themselves. An insider at Point.1 claimed that the room was filled with emotion from the very beginning. Jungkook spoke first, expressing how the company's decisions were not just business. They were personal. "We are not objects." He spoke slowly. "We are people with feelings." Toom, always calm but firm, added, "You can't control connection. Something that was never intended to end cannot be paused." The insider said that his words hit everyone present in the room. The truth in his voice could not be denied by the executives. The discussion reportedly lasted deep into the night. At one point, the atmosphere grew heavy. Some speak of tears were shed, but something had changed by the end. The tone of the company changed, and an understanding started to form. Around 3 a.m., both Taehyung and Jungkook left the building together. They only gave a silent nod to the cameras that were waiting outside before entering the same car and driving away, to fans. Everything in that brief moment was important. It wasn't just about contracts or decisions anymore. It was about unity, about the two of them standing side by side. Even when the world tried to pull them apart. And just when armies thought they had seen it all. The next day brought an announcement that no one was prepared for. The following morning began as any other until HYBE's official social media account suddenly posted a black image with a single caption. An important statement will be released at 6 p.m. Korea Standard Time. Within seconds, the internet exploded. Armies couldn't breathe. Every theory imaginable filled timelines. Some hopeful, while others are afraid. Could it be an apology, a reversal, or something far bigger? As the clock struck 6, simultaneously, millions of fans around the world refreshed their screens. Then, the notification appeared. Big Hit Music and HYBE issued an official joint statement. The statement was long, but one paragraph changed everything. After careful consideration and deep conversations, we have decided to withdraw the previously announced restructuring plan together with the artists. Members' collaborative activities will resume without restriction. Our priority remains supporting BTS in their unity and artistic freedom. The world stopped moving for a split second. Then came the roar, tears, laughter, screaming. It was like a tsunami hitting social media. Within minutes, worldwide hashtags like HYBE listened, BTS Forever 7, and Take One became popular. It was called the most emotional reversal in entertainment history by news outlets across Korea. Even veteran journalists acknowledged that they had never witnessed fandom exert such an enormous influence on a business. But, while fans celebrated online, something else was happening offline. That same night, Toom posted a photo, a quiet picture of the city lights with a short caption. Freedom always finds its way.